big news yesterday with the interest rate cuts. You always predict these correctly. Was this one expected?
Well, I wouldn't say I predict them all correctly, but I was amongst many economists who did, yes, expect the RBA to cut rates yesterday. It was no surprise really to the markets or economists after the good inflation numbers that we did get for the March quarter. And yeah, we're all now wondering when and if they will cut rates again. My base case is they will hold off. There is another meeting in September, but I think they'll again wait for the quarterly inflation numbers to confirm inflation's coming down nicely, and then cut again, I think, on Melbourne Cup Day in November.
Okay, so sort of a pattern of waiting and then cutting, waiting and then cutting. It just reflects that caution still at the RBA.
Yeah, I mean, they could cut in September, but it would be for the reasons we don't want them to cut. It would be if the labour market started to weaken in a more meaningful way. At the moment, the unemployment rate has ticked up to 4.3% just in the last month. Now, if it hit 4.5%, let's say, over the next few months, they could go in September because of the weakness of the labour market. But it'd be better if the labour market held in okay and inflation came down, and then they can justify it on the inflation numbers. So that's my expectation.
Okay, watch this space. Well, let's talk about inflation in the US. It still remains high. Can we expect it to ease anytime soon?
No, we can't. It's interesting. Overnight, we got the consumer price index for the US, and the so-called underlying measure there was at rose 0.3%. The annual rate has ticked up to 3.1%. Now, the Fed, the US central bank, wants inflation at 2%. So inflation is still well above their target, but and I think the good news is, so far at least, is we haven't seen much tariff effect. So the markets were buoyed that we didn't see much tariff effect, and so they're still counting on the Fed to cut rates at their next meeting in September. And obviously, you know, President Trump is putting a lot of pressure on the Fed to cut interest rates. So I think they will cut rates. Their labour market is softening a little bit as well, and they'll probably use that as an excuse. But the inflation numbers in the US are certainly worrying, and you know, many central banks around the world mightn't be cutting interest rates in this environment. But at the moment, the Fed looks on track to move and cut rates.